Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to be speaking to you this Shabbat at such a difficult time in not in our congregation's life, but in our country's life and in Israel's life. And if you're anything like me, you've probably been doing your absolute best, knowing that you cannot possibly be successful in terms of trying to keep track of what exactly is going on in Israel. I have a friend of mine who is one of 6 people who helps to manage international finance across the globe. There are 6 folks from 6 major banks who literally make sure that the money keeps moving around throughout the world. And he had explained to me, many of you may have heard, that there was a brief incursion into Gaza the other day, and then there was a drawback, and in fact, some people claim that's the beginning of an Israeli strategy. We'll see what happens and how that plays out, and certainly wishing everybody bracha blessing. So during that brief incursion into Gaza by a very small group of folks, the stock market immediately took a dive. And when those folks walked back out, the stock market immediately picked back up. It's interesting. What happens in Israel affects everybody. We know that based on what we have seen over the last couple of weeks. Now, I am likely going to say some words that you will find offensive. I am likely going to say some things that will not resonate with you. I do not apologize. And I do not apologize because, in fact, I've been trying to say some of these very words for years. I've even tried to say these words in my own home. I have a wife and 3 daughters, so it's hard to get a word in edgewise, as you know. But I do not apologize for a couple of statements that I'm going to make this morning. So I'm going to begin with the following idea. I want to let you know that we, being much of Western society, have been brainwashed and hoodwinked. And we have allowed ourselves to do that over the course of decades. We have allowed the buildup of radical Islam constantly on our borders, in our government, and even in protests that take place throughout our country and throughout the world. The people who participate in those protests, when they say from the river to the sea, literally, most of them have absolutely no idea what they're talking. They have no clue. The only thing that they know is that this is an opportunity to demonstrate their heartfelt, deeply into the bone anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. Do not make a mistake about it. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I am not arguing, nor would I pretend to, that Israel is a perfect country. Israel makes mistakes. Israel, however, Baruch Hashem, thank God, Modeh ani lafanecha. I wake up in the morning and I say, Modeh ani lafanecha, thank God, and I am sure each and every one of you do as well. It will resonate to you, whether because of your own family story, your own history, or just being a Jew. And we will say that thank God, we have in Israel a citizens' army. A citizens' army that is an ethical army, a citizens' army that goes out of its way to best follow, unfortunate quotations, the rules of war. You've heard many things over the last few days. You've heard of inhumane practices by the Israeli army by blocking water, electricity, and food. I'd like to let you know that in 2005, when Israel left Gaza, they left the keys. They then walked out, and while they were walking out, soldiers were being shot in the back, which proves unequivocally that this had nothing to do with land. Here's the land, we'll leave, we'll shoot them. We are too often guilty of trying to be apologetic. We are too often guilty of a progressive Western liberalism, which says the following, which says that there needs to be nuance, there needs to be space for reflection, and there needs to be timed for consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not true. It's just not true. There can be no false moral equivalency about what Israel is doing and will have to do, unfortunately, in Gaza over the next little while. And praise be God that it should be quick and there should be as little life as lost as possible. We have to understand that in Devarim we read over and over and over, Uvaharta b'chayim, therefore choose life, while at the same time, the slogan of Hamas supporters is Ichbad al-Ahu, kill the Jews. There is no nuance, folks. There is no moral equivalency whatsoever. I said 2 weeks ago that anytime somebody is on air speaking and says, this is the situation, and then they insert the word but, however, therefore, context, you have to stop listening. It just means that they are wrong. They're wrong. We have all been blessed, many of us, to be born into a world where we have taken for granted Israel's very existence. Some of us were not born before 1948. This is the only thing that we have known. And this is the only time that we as American Jews are being asked, born into privilege, born into the privilege of being able to express our religion freely in quotation marks. I remember a discussion that we used to have with Simon Greenberg, who was Zichrono Livracha, who was the vice chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, and was a noted historian who argued the following, that anti-Semitism, Nazism, anything of the sort could never take place. The American democracy is different, he argued, based on the values and the statements of the founding fathers inherent in our Constitution. All men are created equal. He's wrong. If you can stomach the sight of trying to understand how any individual can go and take down a poster of a war hostage who is a child and crumble it and throw it into the ground, please explain to me how you do that. There are two options here, folks. There is no nuance. There just isn't. We in Western society like to think that there is only gray, there's never black and white. Two more terms, if I may. Colonization. This is a word that you're hearing constantly. Understand that colonization means that you have a pre-existing state that moves into an area that it wasn't entitled to and imposes its etc., etc., etc. That is not what happened in the state on the West Bank or in Gaza or in the Negev. Never happened. What happened was that Israel, again, in a war of self-defense, was forced to take that land. Gaza, fruit. Southern Israel, fruit. All willing to exchange for true peace. And unfortunately, you and I know that the reason that this whole situation has escalated is because of the fact that Israel was yet again being successful in terms of promulgating peace throughout the region. In addition, of course, being the anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, this was a perfect time to attack. This was a perfect time to upset the balance and allow fingers yet again to be pointed at Israel. That idea of colonization, that term that you see and you hear, it's printed in articles all over the place. In terms of occupation and colonization. It plain and simple didn't happen in Gaza. It plain and simple didn't happen. The first time it's used in any context is in 1967 by Russia after the Six-Day War. Right? That's when it was first used in this context historically. This is not what's going on. Israel does not want to be in the Gaza. Israel does not want to be there. But I've said I've looked at pictures of Gaza when Israel left in 2005 and 2000. That's what it should be. If you want to take time to scroll the internet, take a look at what Gaza looked like. It looked like a hotel resort, essentially. You're by the ocean. You have beautiful homes, neighborhoods, settlements, call them whatever you will. And this is what Hamas has turned it into. Keep in mind, again, United Nations, approximately, if we go over the last 10 years, you will have at least 15 resolutions by the United Nations against Israel every single year. Can somebody please tell me how many resolutions in that same amount of time have been passed against either the PLO or Hamas? Zero. We have members of. Okay, I won't do. I won't do our own government right now. But let's say the following. We're going for to do what we're supposed to do, and I say to them, supposed to contact their people. I have soldiers that they're former students of mine who are in Israel. Every single day I text them. They appreciate it. I have people I know who are Israeli. I ask them how's your family. They appreciate it. The other thing we can do, believe it or not, we can pray. We can pray. That's the position that we're in. We have to pray. Yes, we can collect money, and thank God, Jewish people over at Park Avenue Synagogue over the last couple of weeks, they raised $18 million in just under 2 weeks. Yes, we can give money. But most importantly, what we need to do is we need to give our hearts and our souls unabashedly to Israel and the existence of Judaism. Ladies and gentlemen, I assure you the following. Judaism outlived the Babylonians. Judaism outlived the Romans. Judaism outlived the Ottoman Empire. And Judaism, I guarantee you, will outlive Hamas. My daughter posts on social media regularly. She has what are called 10,000 followers. I am told in the world of social media, that's a good thing. I have no idea, but I'm told. She herself has a very pro-Israel platform. Thank God on her own behalf, not because I tell her to. She has a very pro-Israel platform. She works for a media company in New York that's based out of New York, and the media company took down a couple of her commercials that had nothing to do with her own personal posts about Israel, but commercials that she was in because the media company said, we can't have your face associated with our product. To which my daughter said, Abba, should I file a lawsuit? And I said, I have no idea. She, to her credit, her postings were found by a Jewish organization that's sponsoring a trip of leading educators and rabbis to Israel on Sunday. And she said to me, Abba, I'm going to Israel. I'm going to Israel. And said to her, Danya, how can you go into a war? They will be in the north, they will be in the south, but she's going. And I said to her, how can you not go? And she said that this was her opportunity. You know when I was talking about scrolling before? Folks, there's only one scroll of that. That's a scroll that we read. Lech lecha. Go forth. Be strong. Chazak. Be of good courage. Hold by our values. Stand by our brethren. We have to remember, as we said when we took out the Torah, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, that God will give our people strength. And with that strength, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Bashalom. That God will bless the people of Israel, Medinat Yisrael, and the Jewish community with his greatest gift, the gift of shalom. We say, Kain Yehi Ratzon, praise be God. Allow that to be God's will. And may we truly be blessed here, most importantly in Israel and around the world, with a Shabbat of shalom. Good job.